Restaurants were always in the background of my life. My parents owned a restaurant a very long time ago. They came up in the restaurant industry, and so they knew how hard it was.
My first real job was I was 12 years old at a Polish deli. Every weekend, religiously, I went elated to the market. And I did things like receive the bread and the milk from the milkman and the bread man. So I was like receiving and talking to purveyors. I talked to the customers and sold them whatever they wanted. I packaged orders. I stocked shelves. I loved making them all perfect and in line and orderly.
I grew up in the business. My father owned a restaurant in New York City. I thought it was sort of a glorious lifestyle until he put me in one of his kitchens where I washed some pots and some pans at a very young age.
My mother told me at 16 to go out and get a job, so I went to the nearest steakhouse and got a job as hostess. I worked my way up. They fast-tracked me through their restaurant program, and then from there I just kept continuing throughout my years.
At 7 years old, I was cooking in my aunt's restaurant in Miami. I was pressing Cuban sandwiches and making coffee.
I'd make sandwiches, I'd work the register. In a family business, you wear a lot of hats.
I'm a high school dropout, so I have no formal education. I went from being a bartender to owning 7 restaurants in a little over a decade.
I do see it as an industry where you can aspire to high things from humble beginnings. I'm living proof of it.
Everyone should work in the restaurant industry, in our hospitality industry at some point in their lives. It teaches you teamwork, it teaches you the basic skills that I learned is just people. And taking care of people and that gracious hospitality, I mean, it's in my blood. Those are skills that are going to take you through life no matter what business you're in.
I think the server position is probably one of the most underestimated jobs in American culture. The server position is that job that helps you make ends meet sometimes, or helps you find ways to earn revenue if your time might not be as structured as the typical 9-to-5 employee.
And so it is the perfect flexible job.
For us, we have several servers who are full-time, and then probably the majority of our servers are part-time. Financially, it pays pretty well to be in the front of the house.
I had a watershed moment in my life where my parents had this restaurant. I was thinking I was going to go work for them, and they sold the restaurant. And I remember calling home and saying to my mother, "What about me?" And she said, "Why don't you go get a job?" And my life changed that day. And I went downtown to a little restaurant in Ithaca, New York. I became a dishwasher at that restaurant. I became the best dishwasher. Then I became their best waiter. I became their best manager. The gentleman offered me a partnership in that restaurant. There's something really to be said about a hard day's work.
We try and offer the opportunity for folks to really do as much as they can do. And if you come in as a busser and you work hard and you learn the menu, we'll give you a couple shifts and then see how that goes.
Starting out, I had great managers who saw my potential. I was a waitress, but the chef really liked me and so made me come in the kitchen with him and work 1 day a week and loved what I did in the kitchen.
I truly believe it's a perfect system. There's always the next step up, and you're always working with the person that's ahead of you.
That's the best achievement for me to be able to see on a daily basis, is watching somebody with a glint in their eye saying, I don't want to be a dishwasher forever, this is the job that I want. And they move slowly into a in-room dining position or into a assistant server position or a runner type role. And that gives them a little bit of a step in the door, so to speak. And then you just watch them run.
There are just 1,000,001 opportunities and 1,000,001 things happen here that we bring out that passion.
There's no way we could do this without our staff, a dedicated staff, from the highest level manager to the person who washes the dishes and puts the stock away.
We're about to celebrate our 25th anniversary. It amazes me, one, that the time has passed so quickly, but it's allowed me an opportunity to provide I think a very good life for my family, but also beyond that for many families that work for us. We have about 125 employees week to week.
But it's also an industry that employs people from all ranges of life. I have folks who are 20-something starting out as dishwashers, it's their first job, to people who are in their 40s and have a family and are managing.
And it takes that entire team, from the dishwasher washing the dishes and getting them back in time, and the barista making the coffees and polishing the silverware, and everything is like clockwork. And so it takes all of us.
One of the biggest challenges of opening a restaurant is the initial capital investment. When I read about a restaurant closing, I know, because I've done it, is that, well, this person has invested their life savings into a restaurant.
Well, everything in opening a restaurant is a challenge. I think the thing that would be most surprising to people who aren't in the restaurant industry is the fact that at least 50% of what you do really has absolutely nothing to do with food. It's much more about understanding personalities, understanding management styles, understanding your community base, understanding the hard numbers that are associated with the ins and outs of restaurants.
It's getting the capital, it's finding the right location, making sure you have a product that people want. So you have a lot of components that need to come together. You have to find the right chef, the right manager. And then, you open your door and you're like, oh gosh, I hope people will come. Because if they won't, I'm in big trouble. I have 3 months of operating expenses or 6 months of operating expenses. And after that, I have no money to pay anybody anything. So let's hope it all works.
I think anyone in public policy needs to know that the restaurant industry is its own unique hybrid animal that is an amalgamation of a bunch of different sorts of businesses. The overregulation that might be seen sometimes from policymakers limits the ability for mom and pop operators to really be successful early on in the restaurant industry.
Restaurants are a very powerful force in the economy.
DC is a changing city. It's a city in flux right now, and it's upwardly trending.
A year and a half ago, 165 restaurants have opened up in the metropolitan area of Washington, D.C. The demand is there. The clientele seems to be growing. The residential impact or increase in residency in the city is growing.
Falling into the world of neighborhood dining these days is what DC is really becoming. We're developing so many great neighborhoods.
I think what makes this industry great to me is being able to serve people and have an immediate impact on their lives, whether it be subtly or not so much.
We appreciate being a part of the community, being able to give back to the community. Our mission is to give back to the communities where we live and do business.
Restaurant industry has endless opportunities for anybody who's willing to stay disciplined and focused.
The restaurant industry has allowed me to make a living. It's allowed me to be creative. It's allowed me to employ people. In fact, it's allowed me to help and influence policy. So I'm very grateful to the restaurant industry.